Hey everybody, this is Josh for another episode of the Solopreneur Grind Podcast. Exciting one today as we're talking about some pretty innovative stuff. As many of you know, I'm pretty interested and bullish on AI. Very happy to be joined today by Lucas Root. Lucas, want to say number one, thank you for coming on the show. And number two, if you could just jump in and tell everybody a little bit about yourself and your background.
Yes. And thank you for having me back. It's funny. It's one of the nicest things that you can say to somebody is, I want you back on my show.
I didn't do my homework. I don't remember which episode. I'm going to pull it up on the side here while you do your introduction on which episode you were previously on the Solopreneur Grind podcast. Anyways, back to you.
You should, because it's a humble brag when you talk about the fact that it was over 3 years ago.
Yes. 117, just to confirm, and maybe I'll put a link to it in the description as well. The other reason why it'll be good is because in that episode, I think we went into more of your story and background. Today, I think is going to be more current, shall we say, AI focused and practical, hopefully. So the two will build on each other nicely.
Yeah. I can't wait. So I've always sort of straddled the line between solopreneur and corporate. And I continue to do that, but I'm leaning much more to the solopreneur side. What I mean by that is I've been a corporate consultant for the past decade. I work with some of the largest brands in the world, including the Pokemon Company. I've been with the Pokemon Company for a decade. I also do all this other cool stuff on the side. And, we talked about it 3 years ago, and we're going to talk about some of it today. Similarly, for the past decade, I've been playing with AI. And AI has, for the entire time that sort of the concept of what AI means today has existed, which is more or less about a decade, at least on the consumer side. Jarvis launched in 2016, so 9 years ago. That as that concept has grown into something that we culturally aren't just aware of, but embrace. I have seen this as not just a tool to change the world, because it absolutely is, right? And that's what people are talking about. But it's a tool to bring us back to humanity, which is the thing that really, really brought me into it and made me very, very excited about it. And this is where, Josh, you and I really had so much fun talking about this, 2 weeks ago now. AI is now a tool to make a solopreneur not a solopreneur. I mean, you still get to claim the title, and I'm not taking the title away, but all of a sudden you're not alone. Like, you're not working alone. You have these AI employees for all intents and purposes that are doing an enormous amount of the work that you used to have to do yourself. Like 5 minutes ago, you had to do it yourself. It was yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And now today, the world has changed for us solopreneurs in a way that's so absolutely amazing and exciting.
Yeah, and we're going to get into it. I mean, it's interesting because our last episode was like 2.5 years ago. I didn't even really know what AI was. You're different, right? You have the doctorate. You've been doing this for a while. I'm more of like the common folk, right? Who 2-3 years ago didn't know what the heck AI really was, had never used it before until
Aren't
kind
you
of
a
like,
lawyer?
yeah, I mean, don't hold it against me, but
A JD, Doctor of Jurisprudence?
I guess you could say a doctor in a certain sense. But certainly not in the way that would allow me to understand, the depths of what's going on, for example, behind an LLM. I love using them. But anyway, so I'm excited to dive in, especially because
Sweet. You got me on speed dial.
Okay, there we go. Perfect. But
Lucas, how does this work?
the beauty is you don't even have to know per se the nuts and bolts of what is happening in that LLM, because all of these companies, Google, OpenAI, Claude, the chat functionality that they have means some schmuck like me can use it without knowing what the heck an LLM even is. But the reason I'm really excited for today is you have a book and multiple, and I think we have a few more, talking specifically about AI agents. And I've been using, we'll call it like regular AI for a little bit now, right? The ChatGPTs, blah, blah, blah. But I'm very excited in the innovation and capability of agents. So maybe to kick things off, maybe we'll spend a couple minutes for the folks who maybe even aren't as far as I am. Like, can you give like a 2-minute brief history of like AI over the last year or two? And, what is an AI agent as well, for those who might not know?
Yes, I love it. Everybody knows what ChatGPT is. So in November of 2022, ChatGPT broke the universe, right? It launched. It had more users come on to OpenAI's sort of chat app, let's call it, than anything since Instagram, which is absolutely extraordinary. They hit 100 million users. Instagram was actually faster, but ChatGPT hit 100 million users in, I think, a month. Jeez. Mind blowing. And, Instagram was faster, but Instagram had an unfair advantage in terms of getting to 100 million users faster than that. But, ChatGPT all by themselves, the brainchild of OpenAI, which is ostensibly OpenAI is a not-for-profit council. And, they built this company, this ChatGPT company. They built it entirely out of this, but their intent was to make sure that AI didn't become Skynet. For all intents and purposes, literally that. Their job was to make sure that AI never became Skynet. And by the way, we can talk about that. But so ChatGPT dropped. And initially, you had to get permission to use it. And yes, I was a very, very early adopter. And it wasn't very user-friendly. It didn't do a very good job of making it easy for you to get what you wanted out of it. Now, it was really creative. And, the artifacts of what really creative means still exist in our conversation around AI. And we call that hallucinations. And so, but it was so cool. I mean, it was so cool. You could get in there and ask it questions, and of course it would vomit up a whole bunch of stuff, and you would sort of sift through that and be like, this is an awesome answer and completely wrong, and this is an awesome answer or completely right, and they both came at the same time, and holy crap, how can a machine do this? And the sentence structure is correct. And it's that right there. The sentence structure is correct. That's the piece that turned this from an imaginative plaything into a calculator. Like the calculator that you would personally use there on your desk to punch in, your grocery list to make sure that the total came up at the end. I mean it that literally. So you can sit down and you can write your own email, and your own personal limitations in terms of taking your words and turning it into something that the other person is going to receive well. This is what I want to say, and word vomit. And then ChatGPT will take that. Again, the sentence structure was correct. It'll take that word vomit and turn it into something that's actually usable. And the people who did that with it stuck with it. They stuck with it. They were hooked immediately because they recognized the power of using this as a calculator.
Mm-hmm. And I see that so often too, which, and one of my concerns is, especially in law, when, lawyers are skeptical to begin with coming out of the gate, where you open up something like ChatGPT and you type in many cases, a super vague, not great prompt, and it doesn't give you a great answer. And you go, oh, AI sucks. And you close the window and you're gone forever, right? Because number one, you may have done that a year and a half ago, and you'd be shocked at how much better the responses are probably today. Or number two, if you spend a little bit of time improving your prompting skills, which I think is going to be like the new writing, right? Which is like in high school, you don't really have to know how to write a full, what do they write, essay anymore if you know how to write a good prompt to ChatGPT, right? So can you talk a little bit about how things have advanced since then, and maybe a little introduction to what is an AI agent, so we can, like, I'm going to be so selfish on this episode because I have so many questions about AI agents, which is the hack of hosting a podcast, is get to ask whatever the heck you want. So, but I think everyone will find it useful. So yeah, how have we evolved in the last 1.5 to 2 years, and what is an AI agent?
Love it. So 2 years ago, I decided to take the time to write 2 articles side by side. So I hand wrote an article and I actually published it. If you go onto my Medium, you'll be able to find me and you'll be able to see this article I'm talking about from 2 years ago. And then I did the work of prompting in order to find out how much it took, how many words of input, how many hours of work, how much did I have to spend in order to be able to, and it is spending, it's my time, it's my effort, it's my prompting, in order to get AI to give me the output that matched the article. Now, 2 years ago, AI was only capable of a very limited scope of things. So for example, in terms of words, AI was only capable of processing about 5,000 words total. So if you wanted a 3,000 word output, then your entire input had to be limited to 1,500 words total. Make sense?
Yep.
So if I want a good article, realistically speaking, I'm probably not going to be able to build a 1,500 word single prompt that's going to get me a good article of 3,000 words. Instead, I'm probably going to have to work with AI to do one prompt that builds the outline, and a second prompt that builds the intro, and a third prompt that builds the body of the article, and a fourth prompt that builds the conclusion. And each of those prompts has to be unique enough so that it doesn't produce the exact same thing. It produces just the piece that I want, but also that it carries forward all of the artifacts from the different parts of the article that matter to me. You need a through line and a story, otherwise it's not going to be readable. And you need facts. Otherwise, even if it's readable, people are going to be like, hey, this is a good story, but it's not an article because it's not teaching me anything real. And all of those pieces need to exist in the way that they're supposed to exist, and they have to be continuous and, maintain the flow and continuity for each piece. It was a lot of work for me to get that article. At the end of the day, it was something like 10 or 12,000 words, and it probably took me about 50 hours, but I succeeded. Starting from complete scratch, building a set of prompts, and I think it was 6 different prompts, not just 4, building a set of prompts that work together to produce a similar quality, similar writing article that I could probably put in front of somebody side by side. And you could say which one was human. Unless you were an AI expert, you probably wouldn't notice. All right, now, 2 years ago, if I had sat down, and in fact, I did exactly this, and I had put together a string of code that says, I'm going to do this work. I did this separately afterwards because I wanted to be able to do it. I'm going to do this work, and I want to be able to put together 5 or 6 or 7 different prompts that all work together to build an output. And I want to be able to use AI for each of those prompts, and I want the prompts to come together at the end, and I want you as a tool to be able to evaluate that. And I'm going to build a string of code that calls the AI for each of those sets of prompts and calls the AI to make sure that the output is complete. That's part of the prompting, right? And so that string of code and the connection to AI and then the connection to the document that it's building, that would have been an agent back then. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Now, people were doing it and it was working. I did it and it was working. And so OpenAI said, okay, I get it. Like, this is a thing people are doing. So let's see if we can't figure out how to make that work inside of this tool. And so the first thing they did was expand their context window, which made it possible for me to do even more cool things with this AI agent that I had already built that just calls a group of prompts in order to do a group of things that are all stringed together by some logic that matters to me. So they expanded their context window. That also meant that you, on the user side, could use a more sophisticated, deeper prompt in order to be able to get your output. So if the context window is now 10,000 words and you want your 3,500 word article, now you have 7,000 words that you can play with in order to arrive at that 3,500 word article. To be fair, 7,000 words probably should be enough if you have a good logical understanding of the process from start to finish of pulling together those 7,000 words. And And that's what the chat history is for you. So first you put in your vague prompt, and then you start to fine tune it in that chat. And the 7,000 words that you have to arrive at your 3,500 word output includes all of that chat history with your inputs and the AI's responses to your inputs. And then finally, you get your output. And so then this is so cool. Like now I can do 7,000 words of input and get 3,500 words of really, really high quality, really finely tuned output. If I want to do a 20,000 word book, now I want to be able to put together a string of prompts that total 4,000, 5,000 words each time. And I need those string of prompts to, again, work together in order to be able to put together 7 or 8 different outputs that are all 3,000 or so words so that I get my 20,000 word book. And now I'm getting excited because I can build an even more complex agent that can do even more complex tasks. And so ChatGPT, of course, OpenAI, they paid attention to what people are doing because they see all of this stuff and they use it to not just train their agents, but also to train them as an organization, giving us what we want. The Google style. And by that, I mean, Google pays attention to the way you use their tools. They pay a lot of attention to the way you use their tools so that they can fine tune it. And of course, they want to make more money, but they want to fine tune their tool to make it better for you. Now, back to OpenAI and ChatGPT. So they said, okay, I get what people are doing. Let's again, give people this functionality because not everybody's going to be able to put together this code and not everybody's going to be able to think about putting together these groups of prompts that the code can call on and send over to AI. And not everybody's going to understand how to be able to put that stuff into a document and allow the AI to work with the document and work with the prompt together. Okay. Not everyone can do that. So let's give that to them. And that happened about 9 months ago, like mid-year last year. And they called it Canvas. Anybody who's using ChatGPT and sees that ChatGPT starts dumping your thing into this little sort of internal document that they call a canvas, that's exactly what this is. The intent was to give you the capacity to be able to string together multiple prompts, all of which work on one specific document. So they're emulating the thing that I was doing, the thing that all these other people were doing, which is amazing. So cool. So each time we get more complex and sophisticated with the agents that we're building in order to be able to put together the things that we want to put together, ChatGPT, OpenAI, they're paying attention and they're learning, and then they're figuring out how to bring it to you, somebody who's not going to put together that code and who's not going to build those sets of prompts that are going to be able to work together. And, you know, it's not to say that if it was of life or death, you wouldn't be able to figure it out. You're a lawyer. Of course you'd figure it out. But you have other things to do, and ChatGPT recognizes that you want that, so they're giving it to you. And that also changes the game. See, now I don't have to do that anymore because they've done it. They've given me Canvas, and they put 4.5 right next to it. So I can use Canvas and 4.5 and hot switch between those and 03. And the output now is highly sophisticated and highly thoughtful, and it's capable of capturing my voice across not just that chat history, but all of my chat history. Mm-hmm. They've done a great job of making it unnecessary for me to use that. But that doesn't mean I don't still want to use agents. Now that they do that for me, and trust me, I've got 3 windows, and one of them has ChatGPT on it all the time. Like literally, it might as well just be my permanent window. Now that they've got that for me, they've got it covered. Now I want to do other things with my agents. Now I want my agents to start answering my email inbox for me. I want my agents to start answering my LinkedIn direct messages for me. Now, there have always been tools for this. And some of them are good tools. And, you know, pop open Google and look up this tool called Expandy.io. It's a tool that I used to use years ago. Now I don't use it anymore because I can build my own agent that's going to be able to pop into my window and do the things that I want it to do. Sorry for Expandy, but I'm not paying them $1,000 a year anymore. they're a good tool. They will actually build a workflow where they can respond to your LinkedIn direct messages for you. But I like doing that. AI makes this fun for me. I've always been able to code. I also have always chosen not to. I'd rather pay $1,000 a year to Expandy than do the coding myself until AI came out. All of a sudden now it wasn't just something I can do. It was something that's fun for me.
Mm-hmm.
So now I'm doing different things with these agents because as we call on AI, they receive, just like Google, they receive the query on the other end and they say, okay, this is what people are doing. Let's find a way to give it to them inside our tool. Don't misunderstand. It's not because they want my $20 a month. Of course they do want my $20 a month, but they're losing money at that rate. Like they are still very much a research and development organization. They are not a consumer focused organization yet because they're, relying on our investment money over our consumer $20 a month money. No, they're focusing on moving the industry forward. One of the things I'm so happy about ChatGPT, they're focusing on moving the industry forward and on shepherding that industry in a direction that's powerful and useful to us as a user. And I pay $20 a month in order to be able to be part of that journey, which to me is a win-win-win. So
yeah,
that's a lot of words to talk about sort of the history of AI and the history of agents in AI for the past couple of years and what that looks like today.
Yeah, no, super interesting. And you were kind of leading me into my next question and segue, which is, with all that in mind, and as a non-coder, I couldn't agree more, right? Like, I have no coding ability, don't really want to learn it to begin with. And even already, how easy they've made it for people like me to build a custom GPT, or in my case, I've been using the Gemini gems more recently with no code. I mean, it's unbelievable. But I'd love to get into, what are some of the key use cases that you're using agents for right now, right? So I bet you there's a lot of people who just listen to that and they're still saying, I don't understand what the heck. Okay, this is great. Now I kind of know what an agent is. How can I use it in my day-to-day life? Or how can I help grow my solopreneur business? So I'd love to hear, number one, what are some of the most common use cases you'd recommend, or maybe you're using for now? And then number two, what are the best tools to use to do it?
Yeah. So here's my favorite. 90% of the news is available on RSS feed, right? So you can sign up to get a feed of news for very low cost, and in some cases free. The AP, if you know how to do it, will give you a free feed of news right directly to somewhere, as long as you have a tool that allows you to subscribe to that. Again, look up RSS feeds. But there's an enormous amount of news that comes out. And so there are two different categories of news that you as a solopreneur have to care about. There are the things that you're personally interested in and you want to read. And then there are the things that you as a solopreneur business owner have to be on top of. Everybody knows this, everybody gets this. So first things first, have a tool that allows you to import those news feeds. Now, let's just assume that the news category you care about, let's say, law changes not in your county, but across the entire country, that news category is fairly large. So you actually are going to need to pay attention to a lot of things. And you don't necessarily want everything, but the AP RSS feed doesn't actually give you the capacity to fine tune that. So now you're going to get, let's say, 150 articles a day. And you really only care about 3 of them. Well, that's where, so first you have a tool that allows you to bring that RSS feed in. Second, you need that tool to be able to parse out each of those so that it can be processed. Third, you build a rules engine. Now, you're not a coder, so you don't want to build a rules engine, which is where AI first shows up. You build a rules engine that parses through each of those 150 news articles that's going to come into you every single day. And again, this is just on the Solopreneur site. You also have the ones that you care about personally. So first thing, you need AI to be able to parse through that and help you fine tune that 150 news articles down into, let's say, 10, where you actually personally need to take a look and and go that sort of final mile, let's call it, from where you trust AI to do the work all the way to where the work is done. And you say, okay, these 10, this is the one that I want to scan through. Okay, I've scanned. These 2 are the ones that actually matter to me. Now you pop those open, you read them, you're like, okay, I've read them, I've done my job. But you as a solopreneur, you still have work to do. You need to tell your audience about that news. And you could sit down, because you have all the time in the world, and luxuriate putting your hands on the keyboard and writing up an article, a newsletter every single day about the 2 articles out of the 150 that came in that you care about. Or, again, we've talked about using AI to do writing with you. You could have 80% of that writing already finished in a draft form and handed to you. So, workflow. Receive news articles, parse them down into the 10 that you care about. From that 10, you choose 2. From those 2, you write a newsletter to your team, 80% done, delivered to your screen, ready for you to do final editing and hit the send button. That's an example of something that ChatGPT can't do for you today. And I'm not sure that they're working on it, so probably they're not going to be able to do that tomorrow. However, the combination of ChatGPT and Notion or Google Evernotes, right? So ChatGPT and Notion. So Notion will receive that RSS feed. Notion has an internal AI that will be able to do the parsing, bring it down to the 10. Once you get to the 10, you click a button and you say, okay, this one and this one, Notion will do the first draft for you. You can take that first draft. And when you first sit down at your computer in the morning, what used to be an hour and a half worth of work is now only 4 minutes. And you take that and you drop it into ChatGPT, who knows your voice and has this enormous amount of chat history from you just messing around with it for the last 2 years. Then you say, here's my first draft. Let's do a second draft. Let's take it from 80 to 95%. ChatGPT pumps out that second draft, drops it into Canvas. You open up in Canvas, you start to make some edits. You pop open the notes window where you can actually prompt ChatGPT in Canvas to make edits alongside you. Now you take it from 95%, which ChatGPT did for you, and then you plus ChatGPT together, you finish it to 100%. You grab the entire canvas, you bring it back into Notion, you drop it into Notion, and you say, all right, go ahead and schedule the newsletter send out for 11 a.m. this morning while you're going to be on a client call. That's an example of a human plus AI agent workflow that will take hours worth of work from you and turn it into minutes, and the important minutes, the minutes that you can't skip. You have to read those 2 articles anyway. You have to do that fine tuning anyway, because when you get on the phone with your client and they talk to you about that newsletter, you can't have had it automatically sent out because you need to know what's in it.
Right. And that's where I think some people get it a little bit wrong now, which is like, AI is not here today to replace everybody and take all the jobs, right? AI is to fit into the workflow, replace a lot of it, as you're saying. But you still want that human interaction, that human involvement, the human checks and balances to kind of get it to the finish line. But like you said, if you can leverage AI to get a draft to 80 and or 95% in seconds instead of hours, I mean, it's, I think it's crazy to ignore. The other interesting thing I thought you said, Lucas, was how it's been improving based on your language over the last 2 years. That's only for the people who've actually been using it. So my big fear for people who are too afraid or willing to even try AI is, while you're sitting completely on the sidelines, even the people that are tinkering and using it a little bit over the last year or two are going to be that much further ahead as it continues to get better and better. So I guess one of my last questions is, in terms of agents, what would your top 2 or 3 tools or agent builders or suggestions be, especially for those like me who can't code? Is it fair to assume that like OpenAI and Notion are near the top of the list, or any others?
The absolute top of the list. if it's somebody who doesn't want to figure out how to do even the simplest string of code that ties together this piece and this piece and this piece, and I respect that, Notion is your best friend in the entire world.
Very cool. I mean, it's funny. At my startup Vista, we use Notion as like a CMS or like, info organization. And I haven't used AI in it at all. So I'm going to have to go take a second. I've been using ChatGPT. Like I said, I've been using Gemini. I really like Claude for writing and stuff like that. We were talking before we hit record. I used a script that has great AI editing. So I'm not shy to AI, but I don't even know why. I haven't tried it with Notion yet. So now I have some homework. Any other tools, tips that you'd recommend?
Yes. Not just today, but like in 5 minutes. And by 5 minutes, I mean a week, 2 weeks, like a not huge amount of time. So 2 weeks ago, Google just dropped their entire AI agent infrastructure. I put up a YouTube video on it. You actually took a look at it and it got you all excited, which is great. I feel good about that. It's gonna mature a little bit, but very, very quickly. Google is very fast at putting this stuff together. They understand how important this is to the market. They are going to be the market leader in terms of the agent infrastructure. And it's not gonna be hard for somebody who hasn't played around in, literally they call it their playground. So for somebody who hasn't played around in the Google playground, it's not going to be hard for people to get up to speed to be able to start building agents inside the Google world. So in order for that to be able to really level your life up, you're going to need to be using Gmail. You're going to need to be on Google Docs. You're going to need to be on Google Sheets. It's worth it. It is absolutely worth it. This architecture is going to make your life better as long as you can exist within the Google infrastructure. So Notion for the people who can't play in the infrastructure, for people who can be in Google, start looking at it. It's not beautifully user-friendly yet. It's still sort of geared towards people who are developers, but really they're not going to waste time. They want the use, Josh. They want the use of the world to be able to jump in there and start building the thing that you've been waiting for your entire life. And it's not going to be long.
I'm glad to hear it. I've been a Google user for a long time. I will say, even like without the agents, Gemini has been very user-friendly, including build them custom gems. So for those of you like me who can't code, number one, as you said, the non-coding agent building will come soon. But in the meantime, the basic Gemini functionality, the way it is, and the custom gem building is very good. So I'm very glad to hear it. Lucas, this has been great, and we can go for a lot longer. Maybe another episode, especially as things continue to evolve. Any last words or piece of advice for people, especially solopreneurs who maybe haven't been using AI much at all, or maybe just a little bit? What would you leave them with?
First, get in, start playing around with it immediately. Like literally yesterday, it's never really too late. Well, I mean, we may arrive at it too late at some point, but I don't think we're there. But don't wait. So get in, start playing around with it. And when I play, I mean that. When I say play, I mean that literally. Like get in and play. Swear at it. Write poetry in it. Ask it to create art. Drop 100 of your last emails in there and just see what it has to say. Put in your social media posts. And again, just see what it has to say. It's not about getting an output yet. Just play around, just get familiar with the tools. Gemini is an absolutely magic tool. Gemini leveled up the game in a way that ChatGPT is going to have a hard time keeping up with. It blew the market out of the water about 2 months ago when 2.5 dropped. It's absolutely epic. And again, Google's not stopping. They're not sitting on their laurels and waiting. Like Gemini is absolutely extraordinary. And I use ChatGPT here and Gemini here and Cloud and Perplexity over here. And honest to God, I'm on Windows. I use Copilot down here. Like I use them all side by side. Sometimes I compare output. Sometimes I actually switch between tools because one tool does one thing better and one tool does another better. Gemini has a 1,000,000 token, which is effectively 1,000,000 words context window, which means you can drop 2 full books in there and then chat with them. You chat with 2 full, like one entire doctoral dissertation, and Gemini can actually hold the entire dissertation in its context window and give you accurate chats on it. Like, it's epic.
Yeah, and the last piece too that I like to tell people who don't even know where to start is like, ask AI where to start, right? Just be like, hey, this is what I do, this is who I am, this is my business. What can you help me with? You know what I mean? And kind of go from there. So that's kind of like even more meta and kind of the fun part. Lucas, thank you so much for coming on the show again. I'm sure it won't be the last time. If people want to get in touch with you, learn more about you, where do you recommend that they go?
Love it. Pop by my website, lucasroot.com. Pretty easy to remember. I have several books up on Amazon. One is this one that I've held up a few times, the AI Agent Playbook. This is intended to be a workbook, so buy it, and while you're using it, take notes in it, doodle in it, write in it, rip it apart. Like, that's what it's for. And I just this week published a book on prompting that's going to help you level up the way you think about your interactions with AI.
That's awesome. I'll include links to all of those in the description below, whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on your favorite podcast platform. I think prompting is so key. So that's great that you just released that. Lucas, thanks again for coming on the show. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me back.